All right, so this is Ordinary Madness, episode 51. I'm Steve Barker, and with me today is Seattle musician Ayron Jones of Ayron Jones in the Way. And just to get started, he's gonna play us a song.
No, I'm bad, baby. The baddest man in town. Try and disrespect me. Lay your body down. Lay your body down, baby. Oh, lay your body down. No, I'm bad, baby. The best there's ever been. And I feel sorry for your sugar. You're a victim to my sin. So lay your body down. Lay your body down. Lay your body down. Body down.
Wow. That was amazing, man.
Thank you, man.
And
Jesus, you don't need a microphone or anything.
yeah. Is that gonna be on the new album?
That's gonna be on the next one, man. We're doing so the next album we're doing. So I'm already in the process of writing the new stuff for the next album. But this first album, we got some really good cuts. Me and Mix have been texting back and forth probably for the last texting and talking back and forth for the last almost month now, trying to get everything all right and situated for the release of this album. So it's a very different take. The next one's gonna be a little more bluesy though. So you're kind of getting the sneak peek of some new stuff coming down the pike right now. So
Right on. So that one that comes out October 29th is totally complete. It's just...
Yeah, it's done. We're just getting the mixing process, making sure everything sounds what we want it to. It's different when you're in the studio versus when you are live. I mean, a live music... when you're playing live, there's room for error. There's a lot of room for mistakes and probably things audiences wouldn't notice. But when you're in the studio, it's got to be perfect because that's where the focus is. It's right there on the sound. So,
Right.
Yeah. So we're just making sure we get everything perfect and sounding right, sounding kind of at the quality we want it to sound.
So how was it, writing all these songs on your own and then bringing them to mix? And
it's interesting, man. When we stepped forward and did this project together, we had to re-record 3 times, man. So the first time we came in the studio and the recordings were great, but they were jams. Like they didn't sound like songs, and I wasn't at that level of musicianship or artistry just yet. And I got challenged, I think, to really create something that was going to be a more viable option in terms of selling on a market, Whereas before, I considered myself more a guitar player and less of an artist. I was challenged to really tap into my artistry and create. So I rewrote the album and made it sound very different than it originally sounded, man. So it's been, the process itself has been quite an interesting one, but it's been cool to watch my own evolution and then kind of see that progress and how it changed everything, from here on out. So
right. So when you started playing guitar, were you more playing covers and kind of jamming as opposed to thinking of like actual compositions of like a 4-minute song or something like that?
Yeah, I was right. I've been writing since I was a kid. Before I could pick up a guitar, I could write, and I think that was something that I was just naturally gifted at. And when I was 13, I grabbed a vessel, a guitar to express myself through. So originally, when I picked the guitar up, I was actually just writing my own stuff, trying to like just figure it out on my own. And the covers didn't come till later down the road. But yeah, I mean, I just been writing my whole life. I just didn't know what it meant to be a writer or an artist. I mean, it's one thing I can write a song for myself when it can be like 10, 15 minutes long. I think it's the shit, But like,
right.
if I write, try to put it on the radio, it's just not gonna happen. And the whole purpose of what I'm doing is to try to touch people all over, In order to do that, I got to speak the language of the industry. The language of the industry says 3.5 to 4 minutes long, So I had to learn how to take what I already had, the essence of what I had written, take it, cut it up, and put it into like a 4-minute segment, So
yeah. And were those early songs? Was it always kind of like a bluesy background?
Definitely, yeah, definitely. I always really enjoyed the bluesy sound. Even before I really got into the blues, I really enjoyed the soul and the blues that the guitar produced over the years,
Yeah.
Yeah. So.
And I saw from you never took lessons or anything.
No,
You just picked it up at 13.
Yeah, 13 years old, man. I picked it up and kind of went with it, man. And that was it.
So did you not even have like a mentor, like an older brother or a dad or something who was like...
Nobody, man. I had recordings, I had... there's books to buy,
right.
Things like that. But I never had... There was no one who ever sat down with me and said, this is how you play guitar, It was just kind of pick it up and go with it, So I just kind of picked it up and went with it.
Wow. Well, so that's to a non-musician or somebody who's made a few attempts at guitar. Yeah. That to me sounds really strange because was it just the ear? Like you'd hear a song on the radio and be like, oh, I think I can do that.
Yeah. I mean, it got to be my ear once I really learned what I was listening for. It was just a different state of consciousness. I guess as I learned more and more about the tools and the sounds that could be produced by the guitar, I learned about the techniques that were behind those sounds, So as I was teaching myself the techniques, I started listening for what that sounded like on the radio or different recordings, and further teaching myself after that,
Yeah.
Yeah.
So at 13, who were some of the groups that you were listening to that you were getting into?
I coming out of middle school, man. This is the post grunge era, So like everything's just like grunge music or alternative music that was blasting on the radio stations in the '90s, late '90s, And so a lot of that was my main influence. It was the Nirvana, it was the Pearl Jams, it was the Mudhoney's, it was Sublime, it was Blink-182. Like all these cats were blowing up at this time.
Yeah.
So those they really influenced the way I like enjoyed music. But when it came down to the guitar, though, the guitar cats I listened to was mainly Stevie Ray Vaughan. And after learning a bunch about Stevie, I went into his influences. That's when I found out about Jimi Hendrix. I found out about Albert King. I found out about B.B. King and Buddy Guy and Lonnie Mack and Guitar Shorty and like all these guitar legends throughout time.
Yeah.
And that's when I started to kind of progress into that. And once I got established what they had brought to the table, I brought myself back to the '90s and started reworking that again, man. So.
Right. And so then how long before you got together with like a drummer and bassist and started, were you getting into like, bands right away, or did you sit in your room and practice for a couple of years before?
I just played and practiced all the time, man. I didn't have a band to play with, and some kids at school, we did some jams and stuff, but like I never really had my own group until I was 20, and at 20 I put a group together with these two cats, and it was like 2 guitars and a bass. And we started playing like coffee shops around town and not getting paid anything, maybe a sandwich or something like that. But
right.
That's kind of how it started out. And when I was 21 to get at the bars, I could start being around musicians and people who, could provide other instrumentation to the project. So that's how that started out.
And is that an earlier version of the guys you're playing with now, or was that just a completely different?
Completely different. It's funny actually with this album. I think I've really established what my sound is, and. At that time, I had no clue. At that time, it wasn't I just was trying to figure out what I wanted to do, I suppose. So it was definitely more blues, and it was definitely more covers and stuff like that, man. I mean, I was a blues guitar player. I played in the blues band, and I continued to play blues band up until about 3 years ago when I decided I didn't want to play blues anymore,
Yeah.
Yeah, so.
And then so when did the Wave form, and how long had you guys been together before the whole hard rock?
So we had been together for less than a year, actually, when that came out. Let's see here, we started in 2010, and it was maybe a little over a year. So we started in 2010, and I'd already had a band before that for about a year, maybe two, called Ayron Jones and the Way, but it wasn't really anything but just a glorified blues band once again. We were just doing any gig we could find and just mainly playing blues and covers, and then but in 2010 I got together with DeAndre and Rico, and at the time Conrad Rio, and I was offered a weekly gig. I just lost my weekly gig over at Escada Bistro, which was owned by Sean Kemp and the former vice president of Hendrix Records, and he gave me an opportunity to grow myself and to establish a night there. So I was playing every Thursday night there up until the beginning of 2010 when I lost that and got the opportunity to play over 88 keys. And once I did that, I did a new band. I wanted a new sound. I wanted to do everything to kind of just start to fill that role, kind of the music I heard in my head. And so I hired DeAndre Enrico and Conrad Real. And these are cats I knew from the scene. We used to visit this place called the Fair Gallery Cafe that doesn't exist anymore, but up here on Capitol Road.
Yeah, I remember that spot.
Yeah, man, it was a poppin' spot, and we loved it. But the culture of music that came from there had a tone that I really wanted to bring to the stage, So that's why I got with the guys who were heavily involved in that. Conrad, one of the best drummers I know, and DeAndre has just been, his whole family's been in the soul scene forever, and that mixture just kind of was perfect for what I was trying to do. So
yeah. And then so it was the Hard Rock Cafe New Talent, or what was that contest called?
The Hard Rock Rising.
Right.
Yeah, it was it was this competition, and I remember this, man. It's so funny. I'm a firm believer in that. We kind of create everything in our own existence. You know what I mean? And we create the opportunities. We create the magic that happens to get you where you got to be. And I remember just thinking to myself, like somebody was telling me, you got to put yourself in this competition. And I didn't know if we were going to win it, but I knew that it was important for us to be in it, man. So we ended up the Hard Rock Rising competition, and the rest was really history, man. I mean, I know we could battle because we were musicians, and this is
right.
before that we'd really gotten down to being like a band, but we were talented artists, and we knew we could play.
Yeah.
So yeah, we jumped through ourselves into that, and from that came, a lot of the, attention and the media stuff at that time. It was this big like blurb of attention, and all of a sudden we were starting to get these crazy gigs, and and now we're here.
Yeah. Well, and so you guys won Seattle, is that right?
Yeah. We won Seattle. So we competed. And I think it was two rounds. It was the initial band round, and it started out with something like 28 bands or something like that. Or I don't remember the exact number, but we competed. We ended up winning.
Yeah,
which was cool.
And then what did that bring you guys to, a national competition, or was it?
So when we won our region, we were thrown into the world competition. The world competition had something I think it was 25,000 bands or something like that
Jesus.
Involved. Yeah, so they had to whittle it down, and by the time we got to the final, there was 81 left or something like that. So, it was a pretty big deal for us to be where we were. Unfortunately, it didn't get much media attention. We got media attention, but the contest itself wasn't it wasn't just an established contest in Seattle, and so the media didn't really catch hold of it. I don't think we could have. We were promoted in Seattle as big as we could have been, but it was opportunity, and that's what spawned everything else that happened after that. So
right. And so during that time, is that when you were writing this album that's about to come out, or?
Yeah, well, I had already. So this album is actually a collection of some of it's very new stuff, and some of it's stuff I've held on to for a long time and kind of just reworked so that it worked for the album. So. Yeah, it's, in a way, it was kind of that way. Honestly, this album was written during the process of recording, man. To be honest, most of it was,
And is that kind of how you like to write songs?
Not at all.
What do you write with the band, or is it all? Your own?
It's all on me. I write all the stuff. I write it and I have them interpret it. You know what I'm saying? I say this is what I hear here, and this is the beat, this is the groove, and I let it take its own shape. And once I kind of have a shape, I can rework it and mold it into something I think is going to work best. This album's cool because I think I really got a chance to focus on lyrics a lot more. Whereas in the past, I feel like that's maybe been a weaker area for me, just because most things we did were jam sessions. It was me making stuff up on stage, and this allowed me the opportunity to really sit down and work lyrics in a way that was really going to paint a picture for the listener.
Yeah.
So,
well, and I get that with Feedin from the Devil's Hand. It seems like there's a lot of struggle and personal struggle that you put into that song.
Mm-hmm.
And then visually with the video, it seems like that kind of comes together. Did you have any input on the video as well, or was that somebody else's?
Very much so. We were thinking about the idea for a video. I knew as I write these songs, I'm a visual thinker, so I think in pictures and metaphors when people talk to me, and that's how I create pictures, And so as I'm writing a song, I'm seeing a story play out in my head, and which I think is very useful, because if I can see the story and articulate it in words, then somebody else can see the story too,
Right.
And in this instance, I wanted to create a concept that the listener could follow, and listen to, or could listen to, where they could listen to the music and kind of follow the story with their eyes and create a picture, with the music in their mind.
Yeah, because I had heard the song before I had really heard it. I heard it on the radio, and I hadn't seen the video.
Yeah.
And my first thought was like, this sounds like Seattle in the late 90s, and my first thought was Alice in Chains, just because of the up and down. It gets really heavy. It slows down.
That's awesome, man. Yeah, you're gonna love this album, man.
I'm super excited for it, because I came late to the game. It was, I think I can't remember if I heard it on KXP. I heard it somewhere probably like a month ago, and just luckily Mackenzie contacted me. So I was already a fan, and then I got to go through and find all your stuff on YouTube, and you also seem like you're quite a showman.
Absolutely, man.
Guitar behind the back, and
that's so funny, man. That's I mean, that's the thing. It's like, for me, like, it wasn't just listening to these legends, like I'm trying to cultivate being an artist, and in order for me to really like jump into that and dive into that, I gotta watch what the best did to be the best, and like
right.
And the best, the people that are stick out in people's minds forever, the people that could put on a show and create something that was going to be memorable, Every time I step on stage, I want the audience to remember I was there, you know what I mean? And so I take from the legends that did what they did, the behind the back stuff, like those are all treats that I throw in there for the audience, but it makes it so that it stands out, something more. And now I'm just trying to bring more of that Seattle essence and blend it with that,
Yeah, I saw a clip of you at the Dick's Drive-In when they had was it 60-year anniversary?
Yeah.
And I saw you hop in the crowd, still playing while you're basically crowd surfing and playing at the same time, which seems extremely difficult to somebody who doesn't know how to play guitar. I imagine
it was scary, man. I remember what was going through my head. It's like, but that's that Seattle essence too. Like that's the essence of Seattle right there. It's just like, forget it, just no fear, go get it. You know what I'm saying? It's got that kind of energy to it. And smashing my guitar that same show, that's what I think music should be about. It's about that raw energy and expression, man. And like, I remember thinking to myself, and the reason I jumped too, man, because I'd been wanting to do that for a while, but I hadn't really had the opportunity to do it in front of such a big crowd, and this was just it. I knew it was packed out the whole way through down the block, and I'm just like thinking to myself, I'm going through rough stuff emotionally. And I'm sitting back and I'm playing. If you look at the video, it's me playing this riff. And I'm just playing this riff. And I just leap. And I'm like, fuck it, go, dude. Like, I run in there. I jump into the crowd. And I just do it, in front of my hometown. You know what I mean? And like that was like a release to me. And almost an emotional release. Like, no matter what is going on anywhere else in my life, I know my guitar is always with me. My band's always with me. I got my music. And more so, I got my people behind me, you know what I mean? And my people being Seattle, and that feels good to me. Right. And that's what keeps me going.
Yeah. Well, and it sounds like right now you got all of Seattle behind you, and once this album comes out, it seems like, there hasn't been a great rock group out of Seattle. We've got the hip hop thing going right now, but it's been a while since there's been, some real rock. Yeah. And just even in general, like in pop music right now, it's either like really techno-y stuff or hip hop. And
I agree with that. I agree with you on that. I think that this is going to be definitely a statement to Seattle rock. I want it to be, at least, and some of the stuff I've already heard is already blowing my mind, and the way it's produced. I wanted to make a rock album that bumped like a hip hop album. So this thing drives. It bumps, it pushes you, excites you, it grabs a hold of your chest and just says, "Let's go," I'm just hoping to make the city proud in what I'm doing, because the whole way through I'm thinking about like how to represent my city the best, you know, and
Yeah.
I think that's how you do it. You carry that essence with you.
Right. And so the album comes out on the 29th, but then you're playing at Neumos the second, and that's going to be kind of like the release party,
the release
right?
party, yeah.
Which sounds like it's going to be amazing.
It's going to be crazy, man. It's already going to be crazy. We got Tamika Williams is going to be there, and Sir Mix-a-Lot's going to be there, and then it's going to be us, you know. So I think it's going to be one of those memorable shows in Seattle, and kind of a statement, I think, man. Especially once, you know, this music starts reaching some ears. It's going to be very interesting to see what happens, you know, because this is our first release. I mean, this is our first major release, man. We haven't had an actual release of anything. I mean, we had an EP last year, maybe a couple of years ago now, and it did all right, you know, but it wasn't our sound. It wasn't what I was trying to create, but it was almost like a stepping stone, almost like practice. Like, it sounded good,
right?
But it wasn't my sound. It wasn't what I wanted, you know. So this year, it's exactly how I want it. It's got the intensity, the rawness I want, and I'm just interested, excited to see what it does, you know.
Yeah. Are you thinking about doing like a tour outside of you know, the Northwest with that once that comes out?
I'm hoping so. I'm hoping it reaches enough ears or the right people to help us keep pushing it forward and continue to spread the word, you know, because that's the one thing we haven't done. I mean, if you think about my group, we have acquired a following based off of live shows almost solely, you know, off of live shows. I mean, our following, they just love what we do live, and that's awesome. That's a great sign. If you can have a great live show, then that you can go really far on that. The element that's missing right now is quality recording, and I think that once the recording hits, I mean, you get those two combinations, and that's deadly, man. You know what I mean? So I'm hoping that's what happens, is that, you know, our live show and our album go hand in hand.
Yeah, well, and just doing some research, you know, for this interview, it sounds like everything's about to get really exciting for you.
It's crazy right now.
You know, because I wish, I haven't seen you guys live yet. I'm really excited, and I saw you guys just did Bumper Shoot. But everything I read, it was always like their live show. It's amazing what he does. He's going all over the stage, and, you know, rock doesn't, you know, a lot of times you go see, you know, your favorite band, the guy, you know, stares at his shoes the whole time, and he's playing great music, but
he's not in it.
You know, you get bored.
Yeah. This is, I mean, I just have fun, man, and I want everybody to have fun too. I mean, like, this is the thing about, and kind of the energy I bring to the stage too, is, you know, I grew up in the same neighborhood that cultivated hip-hop, you know, in Seattle. Some of the same neighborhoods that cultivated hip-hop. Same thing with my bassist. He grew up in the same neighborhoods that cultivated hip-hop. And with that comes a certain nostalgia, a certain energy that we take to the stage. So, I mean, when you're at a show, you're at a rock show, but, like, we have that kind of intense live energy like a hip-hop show would have. We want people to throw their hands up. We want them to jump around. We want them to get excited. We'll stage dive, you know. We're trying to bring that element to the stage, you know.
Yeah. So, like, when you were a teenager in Seattle, you know, what were some of the shows that you were going to? Were like, who were you excited to go see?
Man, that's interesting. Incubus. I remember being really excited to go see Incubus at the Key Arena, man. And I remember seeing that show and just being blown away. They killed, man.
Yeah.
They really, really killed, man. I thought that was probably like one of the pinnacle moments in my life, being at that show, and it kind of like made me realize like how much more there is out there in the world, you know.
Right.
And so, but Incubus sends out Vendetta Red. I don't know if anybody remembers those guys, but like they're really good too, man. I really love those guys. You know, those are the kind of shows I looked forward to at that age. I mean, when you're a kid, you can only catch, you know, a handful of acts anyways at most of these places you really want to go see, you know.
Yeah. I saw Incubus long time ago, and yeah, it was really impressive.
Oh, goodness, man, one of the greatest live shows I've ever seen, and they're all badass too, man. Every single one of them, it was great.
Do you want to do another song for
Sure, man, yeah.
And actually, before I was just looking at your guitar. That's like really cool design.
Thank
Is that somebody? Did you do that?
I did not. I picked it up because it looked this way.
Oh yeah.
Let me see here. Let me give you a song off the album.
Cool.
It's called On 2 Feet I Stand. That you found yourself a man but I'm just full of broken promises. A lonely man is all I am, and I've been down this road before. Heavy burdens, heavy loads. You know how the story ends. On 2 feet I stand. 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 Have you ever seen a grown man cry? Cause he's broken down 1,000 times, baby. And everywhere he turns, the world just seems to burn. Cut him up and watch him die. But I've been down this road before. Heavy burdens, heavy loads. You know how the story ends. On 2 feet I stand. On 2 feet I stand. Yeah. On 2 feet I stand. On 2 feet I stand. Never love again. Never ever love again. Oh. On 2 feet I stand, baby. Ooh, oh.
Nice, man.
Thank you.
So when you write a song like that,
Yeah.
do you write the melody first and then you think about lyrics later, or?
It's cool, man. So I listen to a lot of hip hop for this reason. This is a good question. What I'm doing is I'm listening. This is the thing. I think this is everything comes down to a scientific formula, and even including passion, including music, including everything. I mean, there are certain formulas. If you follow this algorithm, you will get the same result just about every single time. Why does hip hop bump so much? Why do people love hip hop so much? It's because it's a beat and a groove. You know what I mean?
Right.
I feel like that's lacking in a lot of music I listen to these days, and a lot of music I hear. And don't get me wrong, there's still like the hook, there's the rhythm, there is the riff, like all these things still exist in the song. But the thing that separates a lot of hip hop from a lot of like rock music right now, it's the beat, it's the groove. So for me, like I hear a beat in my head and I go with it, and then I start to create. Like I can play guitar in my head without having a guitar in my hand. So like when I can like think of a song and say, when I get home I'm gonna play this riff.
Right.
And that's how I build off the beat first, and after that I can tell a story. So like it's interesting. I mean, sometimes lyrics come first.
Yeah.
But I find that harder than allowing just the music just to create itself, and all of a sudden you get a feel of a song. Like that song it's really a song about relationships, and like and how in this industry, man, in the music industry, it's really, really hard to maintain a relationship. And I say that just because from experience, I've been through it many, many times. And no matter what I go through, man, like at the end of the day, I know like I'm all right because I got my guitar and I got the thing I keep driving towards, you know what I mean? But that's what that beat comes from, that groove, man. When you're hearing that, like that, it's almost like a heart attack, man. Like you've been hit. It's like your girl telling you she's leaving you, dog. That's how your heart.
Yeah.
It's your heartbeat right there, So I took that and I was like, let me write a story about my heart, Yeah.
Right on.
Yeah.
So what type of hip hop are you listening to while you're?
I like a lot of old school hip hop, man. I listen to, specifically for this album, I listened to a lot of old school hip hop, man. KRS-One. I listened to a lot of Dr. Dre. I listened to mainly Eminem's Recovery album. Really spoke to me, and it was because it's had such a rock edge to it, and that's what I was trying to do, create that beat. And if you listen to Eminem's Recovery album, that whole album pretty much is just taking rock music and turning them into beats and riffs,
Yeah.
And so I listened to a lot of that. I listened to a lot of Nirvana because they were kings of this, like just creating that groove. You know what I mean? Like yeah, so about the hip hop, definitely I took a lot from Eminem, I took a lot from Dre, I took a lot from the delivery of KRS-One. I listened to a lot of Michael Jackson, dude. I listened to Nirvana, I listened to Pearl Jam, I listened to a lot of people, man.
Yeah.
A lot of people.
How do you feel about because another thing doing research, everybody keeps saying Stevie Ray Vaughan meets Nirvana.
Yeah.
Are you comfortable with that kind of?
I mean, I think that's almost the best description you can use. I wouldn't necessarily call it that at this point. I mean, I would take it a step further and just take it to the essences, not so much the specific references. I'd probably say this is more blues meets punk.
Blues meets punk.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's good because like the one thing I noticed, because just looking through all this research is. And I guess it's just a natural instinct, but everybody wanted to label your music. Like everybody's like, it's kind of hip hop rockish. It's kind of everybody. And I was just like,
they don't know.
I don't know. It's rock, man.
Yeah,
like
it's rock. It's and they'll probably label it as alternative. And because it's just what it is. I mean, like this is the age we're living in now. All these kids who grew up with all this crazy music are growing up, and you listen to the radio, and like the genres are just being blended. They don't exist anymore.
Yeah.
Everything is an alternative genre. Something. Everything is something. You know what I mean? So like, it's it's been interesting to watch. You know what I mean? But you're hearing from me, man. Blues meets punk. That's what this is. It's blues rock and it's punk rock, and that's the best I could describe it. I mean, honestly, like, yeah, it's got that hard, edgy angst of punk, but
yeah,
and it's got that soul of blues and soul, man, and rock.
Does the Stevie Ray Vaughan is that ever intimidating? It's like
I try to think about it.
Right.
I try to think about it. Like I learned a lesson a couple of years ago, back when we were doing the Hard Rock Rising thing, and one of the biggest lessons I could have took away from what was going on was like don't live up to the hype, live up to you, because the reason they're talking about you, they're hyping about you because you're already doing what you're doing, And so once you start to focus on what they're saying so that you can do what you do, you're now starting to hurt yourself. So I try not to pay too much attention to it. I really, really appreciate it. It's very flattering. But I don't try to feed into it too much. I just kind of keep doing my thing.
Right.
Yeah.
Right on. So when you're playing around Seattle, do you have any venues that you prefer to play, or do you have like a favorite venue?
One of my favorites. I have some favorite venues, and one of my favorites. I'm actually really excited. I've not played Neumos yet. I'm excited to be on that stage in that room and playing there. So I'll say that first. But the one of my favorite places is definitely the Tractor. I love the Tractor Tavern. Because it's the perfect kind of space, man. It's perfectly built for a good sized crowd, and like in Ballard. I mean, for some reason Ballard is just like pretty hip to music. They're really, really hip to music, and people won't even know who's playing and just come out to the Tractors to see what's up,
Right.
And I think that's really cool. You don't get too much of that here in like Capitol Hill or in other places that have built-in crowds like that.
Yeah. The Tractor seems to me that's going to be one of those places like 20 years from now they'll be like, oh, so and so played there, so like, and all these people are going to be huge, and it's be like, dude. That's where so and so got to start. That's where
Absolutely, man. I can't wait for that.
And so another thing I saw was. When you started as a bar band, you were mainly playing covers?
Yeah, man. We were playing a lot of covers. I mean, like, the thing about it, I've learned from watching and studying, like, people who've made, their lives out of music is that you do have to have a set of covers. You have to throw at least one cover in your set. I don't care how good your music is. If you don't play a cover, you're not connecting, So you got to throw a cover in there that's going to speak to your music and kind of touch base, or something that's totally opposite, and people wouldn't expect you to do, So, but yeah, when we started out, we just did it was like a bunch of covers with originals mixed in.
Right.
And now it's the opposite, a bunch of originals with some covers mixed in. So.
But like, what were some of those covers that you guys were playing?
I played a lot of Jimmy stuff because it made sense to me, and then I learned, I was playing Georgia on My Mind. I was playing Billie Jean. We were playing, All on the Watchtower. Playing, Bob Dylan. So I mean, we were doing really, really interesting kind of array of different types of covers, touching on different genres.
Right on.
Yeah.
That sounds cool, man.
Yeah.
So before we wrap it up or anything, I saw on your Twitter account, that before you guys go on tour, you guys always get tattoos.
Somebody puts it on a Twitter account.
Or, well,
somebody said that. I read that too. I was just as shocked as you are, man. I'm like, we get tattoos when we go on tour. So I'm driving, man. Listen, I'm driving because we all have access to our Twitter account, and like.
Right.
I don't know who that came from. We haven't been on tour yet, but that's kind of dope. I'm down with that idea. You know what I mean? That might as well be the new tradition. Yeah, that's the new tradition. You're here to hear first.
Right.
It's happening.
Well, I was going to ask you what you guys were going to get, but I
just got this tattoo, man, to kind of commemorate the album, and it represents my whole MO, man. Like I am a dreamer, and I'm going to keep dreaming until the day I die. I love my dreams, man. I mean, what's really cool about this so-called reality, as we call it, it's like, your mind can't really tell the difference between what's real and what's not. It creates it all, and so it's an interesting thought. And when I'm dreaming, am I living a dream, or is it just another world? You know what I'm saying? So, and when I'm awake, I think of the same thing. Like, even with all the limitations, just gravity, all the rules, like it's still just a dream, but it's my dream, and that's awesome to me, and as long as I continue to like remember that this is just my dream, I can do whatever I want, be whatever I want, and succeed at whatever I want to succeed in, then like, I don't know, it just keeps life really interesting, man.
Yeah, well, and it's from what it seems like, your dream is just about to explode.
I'm hoping so, man. I'm hoping so. We'll see.
Happy to say, a year from now, and be like, yeah, Ayron was in my apartment. I know that guy.
What to do? It was cool.
Cool. So the album will be out October 29th.
Yep.
And you can get that wherever, right? And you can get Feedin from the Devil's Hand on iTunes.
iTunes, yeah. We're just, the digital stuff is probably the best place to look right now. Until we settle on a distributing deal or something like that. But the internet will be the best place to grab it, and that's where everybody grabs it anyway. So iTunes, Spotify, Google Play, it'll be all over the place, So yeah.
Cool, right on. Well, thanks a lot for doing it.
Thank you, man.
Dude, the success is all just about to explode. I'm looking forward to watching it.
Thank you so much, man.
Cool, thanks, man. And so I'm gonna play Feedin from that Devil's Hand. Right
cool,
now.
Man. That's awesome. Just a young boy, I stuck my chest out like a man. I thought that I knew it all, but I didn't even understand. I found myself lost alone, afraid of my surroundings. Wishing that I was back home, and the devil never found me. I was feared from the devil's hands, feared from the devil's hands. From the devil's hands, feeding from the devil's hands. Lord, can you hear my prayers? 'Cause right now I'm so lost and scared. Can you forgive me? See, I know that I've done so wrong, but I ain't smiled way too long, no. And I was just a young boy, I stuck my chest out like a man. I was steered from the devil's hand.